You can see me.
Yes, I can see you. Hi.
Hey,
How are
I have to give you
you?
the kudos. I have to give you the kudos, the snaps, or however you want to claim it for your technological skills. Boy, have you come a long way.
Remember when I couldn't
Oh
text?
my gosh. Now look at you. Now you're doing, I don't even know what to call.
Running big things, doing big things, doing big things, doing big
I don't know even what to call this. You're like streaming. We're in different states.
things.
You, I feel like people are eavesdropping on our conversation, so we might as well act like we're doing the show for real, and we can just talk like we
Yeah,
had planned on doing.
we can.
So you got to do the intro, do the normal intro.
Okay, I can't kiss you though.
Okay, you do this.
Mwah. Hey
Okay,
everyone, it's Renee.
and Gil from the Rich Relationship Refuge coming to you from two different locations, almost 1,000 miles apart. I know this is crazy.
Good.
I don't know how if this is dedication or this is real commitment. And that's kind of what we're going to be talking about tonight is how committed you are when you are separated by
Yeah.
long. This is kind of we did not plan this. I know we go through some extremes for planning. I know we go through some extremes to bring things to our audience and bring things to our community to this is just I think over the top now. You know, most people based on everything we've been going over these last couple weeks, most people would have been like, I'm done with this, man. I'll catch y'all when we are stable. But we
No.
made a commitment, so
Yes.
we are committed to do this thing.
Yes. And we love all of our Rich Relationship Refuge community, our Rich Bros, our Rich Sisters, and our Rich fam. We absolutely love you guys. Tonight's episode is called Absence Makes the Heart, and there's a question mark, and you get to fill in what absence makes your heart do. Because I really don't believe that the culprit is absence. I really believe the culprit is the condition of your heart. And
Yes.
so Gil and I have lived in different cities, different time zones, different zip codes, and different countries. And so, me being Miss Pollyanna, I'm just grateful for technology because last night
Now,
we were practicing this, and I hadn't seen Gil all week, and it was so nice to see his beautiful face.
it's nice to
And
see your beautiful face.
aw,
We're gonna
and
try to keep
so
this I won't say a mushy, but a little less mushy because y'all we've been separated, so that's kind of what we're talking about.
yeah, yeah. And so a part of it is just understanding that every couple is at some point going to go through some form of separation or distance. And we have done it over the years. And this is the first time we've been apart for longer than a few days and probably,
Oh man, since my last mission that we went in the Middle East for a year.
right.
So that probably is that was the longest. I was sitting back and thinking about it. The shortest was maybe a couple days
Uh-huh.
where I would have to go do a temporary duty assignment or something, or even a business trip or something like that,
Right.
overnight or a couple days. And the longest was a year plus.
Yes.
So we done seen the whole spectrum from short times to long times. But the commonality that I can say that has remained the same is the things that we have practiced during those times of separation that we're going to be talking about tonight.
Yeah. And I guess a part of it is that, because I was talking about it, we've been talking about it and praying about it. We live in a time where people make it seem as if men are like animals and they don't have self-control and they don't have brains. And, if you can't see them, you can't trust them. And so this is not just about, absence and distance. We're also going to touch on some confidence and trust because I
And
think
commitment.
yeah, we don't understand that because people are like, oh my gosh, I don't understand how you guys, because we've been married. It'll be 35 years in December, but we've been apart a lot. We've been apart
Yeah.
short distances, long distances. And the thing that I can honestly say, I have never worried about, oh my gosh, what is he doing? You know, and I don't know, have you ever worried about what
No,
I was doing?
not at all.
Okay.
That is actually, I would say that was probably the last thing that I would be thinking about as far as while we were separated, like, I wonder what she doing, or better yet, like I think some couples may experience, who she with. You
Right.
know, if anything, I know you were with some of your girlfriends. As far as opposite sex or infidelity or you cheating on me, that has never come to my
Okay.
mind. But I think that is because of the groundwork and the work that we do when we are together that solidifies the commitment and the trust that we have in our relationship today.
Yeah. If you had to say one thing that has made you trust me, what would you say that is?
I would say our levels of communication, communication that we have established over the years. I've said this before that if you were going to cheat on me, you would probably tell me first,
Mhm.
and then somebody else, maybe one of your close girlfriends, second. So that tells you about the communication. I would think that would be the thing that I would say that has been probably instrumental in us establishing trust is
Yeah.
because of our lines of communication have always
But
been
what
so
about when we
strong.
were younger, like when we were dating, like when you went to basic training? Because people get in your head. What did you use? What was it about me that let you know that while you were going to basic training, I was not going to be skipping out on you?
I think it's again, it goes back to what I said already, because even when we were dating, we talked about a lot of stuff. I mean, everything that we could possibly, even before the military came into on the table as far as an option for long topics, again, our future hopes and dreams, and one thing that I can say is that we established even in the dating phase was that we actually talked about us as a couple even when we were dating as singles.
Mhm.
So I seen you in my picture long before I gave you a ring and long before we walked down the aisle. I think it's that's important that even when you're in a dating phase that you date, I would say a long time, but a date long enough to see each other in different scenarios and different situations
Mhm.
and different surroundings, whether it's around family and friends and things like that, just so you can get an idea of how the relationship is going to be in the real world,
Right.
in the realistic time of your life.
I would say for me, the thing that made me trust
I don't
you.
know if I'm buffering or if you're buffering. You're not playing that trick on me like I did last night. You you
No.
you look like you were frozen for a second. Okay.
No, no, yeah, we were playing the game like the buffering game. No, I think for me, the thing that made me trust you was when we were dating and I tried to come on to you and you were like, I have a girlfriend. So I knew that you had integrity even when we were dating.
Right.
So for me, I knew the kind of
Mhm.
person that you were. And I think sometimes women ignore the kind of person that the person is when they're dating. And they think that when they get married, it's going to be different. So for me, I
Right.
would have to say it was your character. It was me knowing the
Right.
kind of person that you were.
Sure. So if you're just joining us, I see we got three people on. I can't
Hey!
see you since Renee is driving. You're joining. We're actually talking about absence makes the heart and is dot 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 or question mark. And some people say it's fonder, wander. Some people say it makes it go fonder. And that's what we're kind of talking about it with the mixture of because we are co-located in two different locations. I think at this time I'll give you a quick update on where we're at right now. As you can see, I am back in Richie. Thank God. Richie has been repaired. I've been in him all week. Where I'm back in Texas. I'm in Texas right now at the new location, uh, which is in Richie right here, right
Richie is our
now.
Winnebago trend, in case you don't know who he
Yes,
is.
yes, a Winnebago trend, and I'll talk about that on another video about what we had to do to get him repaired. I love the Winnebago trend, but Winnebago should have had a recall on this part that went bad. But that's a
Right.
whole nother topic. Um, but I'm thankful and grateful that I am back in this our little tiny house on wheels,
Yeah.
as we call it. So Richie has been repaired. I'm back in here, and Renee flew back to Alabama on Monday,
Yeah.
and so she's back there at the house in Alabama, finishing that up in preparation for us to move everything that we own from there to here. So
Yes.
that's
And
going
our
to
fam.
happen. Yeah, and that's going to happen in August. So just giving everybody a quick update on the real life or reality of how this distancing
So
is
we are
working out.
actually physically not just talking about being apart. We
We're
are
experiencing
apart.
it. Yeah, we're experiencing it right now. So, and I would say, even just to kind of catapult into this topic, one thing that, even as we talked about the topic, I would say something that came to my mind was that's important, and I can feel it through the screen. I can feel it through the screen is the lack of intimacy. That is something that is probably common that you're going to experience when you are disconnected from each other physically. You know,
You
that
mean
where that
sexual intimacy or emotional or spiritual intimacy?
well, I would say it could be a little of both. I think it depends on the couple. For us,
Hmm.
I would say it's more of the physical side, because our emotional and mental side of intimacy is so strong that
Hmm.
we communicate. And thank God, like you mentioned at the very beginning of this, for technology, because when we were distanced from each other, like at the beginning of our career, most people, I think we talked about it on other episodes. Our very first duty assignment was in Minot, North Dakota. And
Hmm.
my job took me away 3 days out of the week.
Hmm.
And so, and this is when we were newlyweds. So
Yep.
that we were experiencing that distance, even though I was in the same state, I could be 4 or 5 hours away from Renee for 3 days straight.
And I
And
couldn't
so,
talk to you.
yeah, we couldn't. It was the old rotary dial. So people who are watching this that may not be familiar with that, that's this headset. This is the AKA cell phone 1.0, where you actually had a cradle that you had to put the phone in. You had to dial it, or you had to go through the operator, or in our case, we actually had to connect to the base operator
I
and
remember
have them
that.
dial the phone for me, because
Yeah.
where I was located, it wasn't that type of, it was a area, I can't go into that, but it was in an area that I didn't have the normal type of phone, so I had to get like relay, and that's not even counting some of the times where I was out of the country, where I would have to call the base and have them dial the home phone number and connect us.
And I had to stay at home so I can get the phone call.
Oh yeah, and see, and that's something that that's, I think, couples can start doing, is you have to make it a
Schedule.
priority
Hmm.
for your communication.
Yeah.
That's something that you're going to have to use to your advantage. Now it's even more convenient because you have a cell phone, and you can
Right.
just dial and pick up or ring each other
And
whenever you feel like
FaceTime.
it. Yeah, and whenever you feel like it. So that's something that you can use as to your advantage when you have this distance, that prioritize your time of communication.
Yeah.
Most of the time you're going to be disconnected from each other, but you have to prioritize when you're going to talk and when you're going to connect.
Yes. And I think the hardest part for me, and so I would say, does absence make the heart go fond, or does it make it wander? Um, I would say it depends on the condition of the heart, because I can say that while we're apart, although now we have FaceTime and we talk, throughout the day, we email each other throughout the day. Um, it's your smell. It's you know to touch you. It's the things that sometimes as couples you take for granted. I think that to me, I think that for me, I think it's good for us to be apart because we've been together for so long. It's like it makes you appreciate each other. It makes
Sure.
me realize, I bet you I ain't gonna forget to do that. And so I think that that's probably why we kiss every day. That's why we, have date nights, because we've had all those so many times of us being apart that it forces you to readjust your priorities. And so for me, I would say, um, I don't think that absence has anything to do with it. I think it's the condition of your heart, And so I miss you when I'm with you. I
You're
miss
buffering a
you.
little bit, babe.
Am I my boyfriend now?
Right.
Yeah. So I think it's just important that you understand
Now,
that.
let me ask you this, talking about some of the things that was made.
Are you okay?
So I think I'm good right now.
Yeah, you're good.
Okay. So what I was going to say, and another thing that I could ask you is, why do you think couples struggle with the lack of trust when they are going through the separations of a long distance relationship?
I think it's because they haven't built their communication, or I talked about confidence. I think some of it can be insecurity, your own personal insecurity, depending on how old you are. I think it's also they haven't built the communication. They haven't spent enough time together to build communication and physical and spiritual and emotional intimacy. So it's like they're going into it with a deficiency. And so it's real easy for them to not trust each other because they have all these feelings of, missing each other. So they may be mistaking them missing each other with it being a lack of trust.
Mhm.
You
And
know.
so I think from after I was thinking about the lack of trust, when you think about why does somebody have those feelings, it's usually because of maybe past experiences
Mhm.
where even during their relationship, it wasn't established on a certain foundational principle of trust, or it started out on rocky ground. So now you add in the extra ingredient of distance,
Mhm.
and you don't have that visual connection and you don't have that physical connection. So now your mind starts wondering, what is this person doing? Are they doing the same thing they
Mhm.
trust them? So and we'll do a lot of negative self-talk,
Yes.
about the other person or even about the relationship that can cause you to get, it can blow up, you
Yeah.
know. And when you said that earlier about guys having a lack of self-control, while that may be true, but nowadays it goes both ways
It
to
does.
where I think it can be just as bad on the woman's side of the street now, in our modern time and modern way of thinking, that it's a high likelihood that it could happen that way as well. But
Yeah.
like you mentioned, if you haven't established that clear lines of communication, or that you have that inability to communicate effectively, it's going to add on to your already suspicions that you may have about the relationship as a whole.
And I think, like we talked about before, about practicing gratitude. I mean, I think that the people you surround yourself with, the things you tell yourself, the thoughts you have, the programs you watch, all of that can be either a help or a hindrance. And so there's some simple things you need to be trying to practice when you're apart, is building your relationship with God and yourself, but also building relationships with other people who are couples. You know, I think that it's important that when you are a couple, when you are in a committed relationship, that you surround yourself with other people to help to remind you and to foster the commitment that you made to one another. But also, if you're married, or if you're in a, because I think about when you were in the military, you were gone, we weren't married, but I hung around your sister, and I went out with people who, not so much that I felt like I was going to cheat, but that kept you close to me.
Held you accountable.
Yeah.
Yeah, that kept me close, but also a level of accountability,
Right.
because we are human, and sometimes your emotions can get the best of you, or situations can happen. I won't say it controls you, but
Right.
if you
But
are
it's a
already
factor.
challenging, or you can already struggling with the absenteeism, especially if it's been a long amount of time, that can make it very challenging if you haven't you add in the um, not so strong relationship of the communication that we talked about, but also the distance. And now you add in another element of time.
Right.
And then if you're isolating yourself away from some of the times or some of the people that can keep you accountable to your commitments that you make, it can be a real struggle, and people really struggle with that
Yeah.
portion of it, their relationship.
And I know one of the things we talked about, you and I talked about, like when you were in Panama, the easy access, how accessible women were. And so
Oh wow, yeah.
some of the things that you had to do, share some of the, because so I think sometimes people just don't know practical ways to keep themselves safe, to keep themselves healthy.
Right.
So what are some of the practical
What I
things you did?
Sure, two things came to mind. Is I really dedicated to, um, my relationship with Christ. I rededicated. That was a time where I had not been so strong in my relationship, and I think in I believe that was orchestrated by the Lord to help me in that area, because and he surrounded me with some strong brothers in Christ that said, you know what? And we were having Bible study almost every other night,
Yeah.
if not consistently. So I was getting strong spiritually from that aspect, but back pretty robust and say
Yeah.
that,
That was my
not as
favorite body.
not like now. This was a few years ago, so but
I still love that body you
I
got.
came back and I came
You look like
really
a
good physical condition.
yeah, that was my favorite body. I mean, I love your body now. Yeah, but I wasn't as buff as you were. You were just massive. Now just saying sexual tension.
Yeah, yeah. You know, jokingly, guys would could be like, "Man, you lifted all them weights. We gonna come in here in your room and find you exploded all over the wall or something." Not in that sense. I know that's kind of graphic, but they were like, not. Well,
I
never
know
mind.
what you mean.
Move on.
Yeah.
So,
What
what were
what
the
are the
things
things
that you actually
I want you to share about bounce? Because I think that so many
bounce?
times,
Yeah,
yeah, bounce. Share bounce, babe. Hear that.
because one thing that I did, I started practicing was when there are times when we are apart, when we're separated. I've been in places where there are beautiful women that are there. They're just out there, in some places that it's promiscuity surrounded by temptation, which is a normal part of life. Way, look up at the sky, look up at the ground, whatever it may be, just to keep my eyes from naturally gravitating to that thing that was attractive towards me or that I found
Yeah.
attractive.
And I appreciate that because I think people don't realize it. It's a conscious effort.
Oh,
You're
absolutely.
still a man, you're still human, but there are things that you have, like safeguards you've put into our relationship, like, like right now you're going, I wouldn't let a guy come in here to do anything when you're not here.
Right,
So there are
right.
certain things you have to do. I don't like, I wouldn't ride in a car with another guy because the Bible says stay away from the appearance of wickedness. So there are
Yep.
certain things that we have to be willing to do. And like for me, I don't give guys eye contact when you're here. So I
So that's similar to bounce.
well, It's not for me. It's not body parts. It's to me, a woman giving a man eye contact is like an invitation. You know,
Right.
you're talking about being tempted. I'm talking
Right.
about being inviting. And so
Or,
for me, I don't give guys eye contact. If someone's trying to get my attention, I will do this in a minute.
show them that rock. Is that what you're doing? I can't
Yeah,
tell. I can't. Okay.
yeah.
Yeah. Oh, you showing that you got you got my ring. You got my ring on. Why are you coughing? Are you okay?
I'm just playing.
Oh, okay. Oh, you were doing it to show my ring.
Yeah, it's like,
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
yeah.
Gotcha.
And if I'm
So,
driving in the car, it's like this, like, get out of here. So,
right.
so I just think that there's things that you have to make a conscious decision, because if you don't plan to fail, you fail. If you fail to plan, you plan to fail. And so you
Right.
have to have things in place for, well, what are you going to do if this happens, and what are you going to do if that? You got to talk about it,
Right.
and I think I know you well enough to know what would be a problem for you as
Hmm.
well as you do for me. And so I think that, as a couple, over the years, we talk about everything, and we talk about things that people say and things that happen, and so I think that when you're available to one another, that it really does help the other person not to feel alone or under
Right.
of maintaining the spark and the commitment that you have with each other as a couple.
Right. So, thank you for joining us on this night. We're our hot night or relationship discussion that we're having tonight about absence makes the heart dot 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 wanders
Or
grow
fonder.
fonder. Basically we're talking about long distance relationships and some of the things that you can do to help you navigate when you find yourself in a situation where you may be separated from your significant other or your spouse, or and some practices that you can do. And we're just sharing with you some of our experiences of what we've done over the years that we've been together that have been very successful in us maintaining the healthy relationship that we have. So how about we give them some positive stuff, since we've been talking about this for almost a half hour? We're talking about some of the things, the pitfalls,
Okay.
but some of the positive stuff is the one that we led off with, kind of. And I'll throw it to you and you tell me how you see it, is prioritizing communication time.
Yeah. And that's with you and God, me and myself, and with you. Because I think sometimes as a couple, because we got married so young, you spend so much time on your relationship with God, your relationship with your husband, that I think that when we're apart like this, there's things that God is dealing with me about me. And
Right.
so I think that time of communication is, I think that to me, the most important part of my life is communication. And
Right.
so, yes, I think it's important that we prioritize the not being so busy that you don't use the time wisely, and that you let God do some work in your heart.
Mhm.
So I would say yes. I think communication is extremely important.
And I would say, to add a little bit onto that, that when we talk about prioritizing your communication, is setting apart time where you actually reconnect visually. Whether you're doing it through your cell phone, whether you're doing it through a online computer webcam and that kind of thing, but you have to make it a priority, because I would say the reason why you are separated is probably, hopefully, a good reason, because you're trying to,
Build something.
get build something or get better as a couple, and sometimes it requires one of you to go to do that thing. Whether it's a conference, or whether it's
Hmm.
a temporary job assignment, or whatever it may be that separated you. It's something that is good coming out of it, but you still have to not be so focused on the job and the mission and the role and the thing that took you there, that you let the relationship drop by the wayside, thinking, oh, it's going to survive, or it's going to be okay. Well, it's only going to be okay if you continue to invest in it.
Yes.
So that's what we're talking about when we say prioritize your communication time. So the next one I would say is, this is one that is really, really important, is expectations, managing your expectations
Yeah.
realistically.
Yeah. And I think that sometimes expecting the other person to know what you want or you need is one of the worst ways that our expectations get us in trouble. Oh, we've been together for so long, you should just know. I don't ever think that. I always know that I'm growing and changing. And one thing about marriage and relationships, we are growing and changing every single day. And so to not communicate to you what I want or what I need is a very unhealthy way to navigate my expectations.
Right. And I think even when it comes to expectations, is you kind of talked a little bit about it, is taking each other for granted.
Yeah.
That because I've been dating for a certain amount of time or I've been married for a certain amount of time, they good. Or when you start thinking, taking the other person for granted, their behavior, or just knowing that nothing is going to happen, nothing is going to go wrong.
Hmm.
Well, when you're separated, you have a lot of idle time. You have a lot of time, away from the person. You may be busy on that journey that took you away, but
Yeah.
you're going to have a time to yourself to where you're going to start thinking about things. You may replay some past experiences, good and bad, and you
Hmm.
may start thinking about, well, how much have I changed? You should use that time. We talk about it on the show all the time about doing some inward examination about,
Hmm.
especially when it comes to individually, but also the relationship. So when you do those things, that could be a very good beneficial thing that you can start practicing that says, how can I get better? How can I do this better? How can I not take my spouse or my significant other for granted? So that's what we're talking about when we saying managing your expectations.
And another thing that I would say as far as expectations is that if you've been apart, the longer you're apart, the more time you have to plan for re-engaging. Because if you've gotten used to a certain role and the other person's gotten used to a certain role, it's you guys have to sit down and talk about, well, now I know when you were gone, I did that, but do you want to take that back on? Or
Right.
do or am I going to continue? Because I think that sometimes what happens is, I know it did us a lot because of the kids, is that sometimes the person who's there becomes the primary disciplinarian, the primary, doing everything, and you have to know how to let the other person um, be a part of the process. You have to realize that you've been a part, and so therefore some things you have to do different in order for you to reconnect. Versus assuming that it's just going to happen naturally.
Right, that kinda goes into the roles and responsibilities that when you are whoever is the primary caregiver, if you have children or something like that, like in our situation where you are always the one that would be there with the kids and I would be gone off on these jobs or missions or whatever, that
Hmm.
when we came back together, it was a in the military, they call it reintegration.
Yeah.
There's a time of reintegration back into your normal family life that's taking you away that took you away to for something that was normal. Now you have to come back and you have to blend in slowly. If you
Right.
sometimes if you go back in saying, you know what, I'm just going to handle this, you're going to end up doing more damage to the relationship, whether it's with your children or with your spouse or significant others, friends, family,
Right.
everything. You can't just pick up where you left off
No.
thinking everybody's just going to adjust to you. Well, if you already start thinking about it before you get there, whether it's on the journey back, start thinking about, or even communicating with your spouse or your significant other about how are we going to start doing this? I know you were taking care of all these different responsibilities. How about you tell me what you want to give up or you want to relinquish
Right.
versus you coming in trying to take over, and reintegrate yourself in back into the primary role of being the overall provider for your family.
Yeah. And I think sometimes as couples you forget about prioritizing your relationship as a couple.
Yep.
And so I think that being apart really makes you think about, man, I miss just little things that we do for each other that you just kind of take for granted. And
Hmm.
I can say that whenever we're apart, I appreciate you so much more than I do when I see you every day. And
Right.
that's why I try to be intentional about telling you that I love you and I appreciate you and trying to serve each other. Because one of the things that I think that really helps to keep your heart in check is serving each other and being kind to one another. And I
Yep.
think those are the kind of things that people don't see the value in that. And they don't realize that there are certain ingredients that are a part of healthy relationships that if no one ever talks to you about it, you won't know, well, how did they do that? Well, it's kindness. It's praying together. It's
Right.
focusing on things that are positive. So all of those things they shape your relationship. I was talking to Kim today, and she was saying she said I always tell people that's one couple that I know is genuinely happy to be with each other. And that was, to me, that's a blessing. But I think that it's important that you realize that your relationship is infecting or affecting other people. And
Right.
so there are things that you have to do. And all the things that we talk about are not things that we're just talking about. You physically have to do it.
Right.
You have to do the work.
Right. And everything that you're saying kind of goes into one more thing that I wanted to kind of bring up in this setting is you have to be patient and understanding with each other.
Yeah.
Just we always have this motto of we are on each other's team, no
Yeah.
matter what. Even when we call them over the past couple of weeks, wild cards happen and things go sideways or things get bad. You have to remember that we are in this together. And you
Right.
got to give each other grace. You got to give each other mercy. You got to give each other some understanding and be patient with each other so you can navigate the difficulties together. Because if you try to handle things on your own, it can be a lot more challenging and a lot more difficult when it comes to how do you overcome some of these scenarios, or we call them wild cards, and get through it undamaged in your relationship. Well,
Right.
you do that by being patient and understanding with each other and giving each other grace to say, you know what, we're going to get through this.
Right.
We used it. I think we even talked about it in one of the last episodes about Renee is the epitome of the optimist, where she is the one that is always going to see the positivity in most situations. Even when Richie was down, I was like, "Oh Lord, man, this is gonna be a." It got bad, y'all. I almost fell off I almost lost it a couple times, and I thank God for my wife who
I
pulled
think.
me out. We call it the tunnel.
Yes.
She pulled me out of the tunnel where that's that dark place where you go to when things get bad. Well, she pulled me out of the tunnel, and it's contagious, and it's so important that you do that because you could be the one that brings light to the situation and keeps it in perspective. That was very, very instrumental for me, and I appreciate that.
Yeah. And to me, I think a part of it, you think about absence makes the heart grow fonder or makes it wander, is understanding that relationships are going to change. They are not going to stay the same. And
Right.
sometimes being apart is what you need to make you jumpstart and start thinking about, oh, okay, I'm going to do this. Think about, like, if you think about if you've ever gone on a fast, you're like, oh, when I get done with this fast, oh, I can't wait to have this. I'm like, when we see each other again, I'm going to make sure that I'll tell you later, but I can't. Yeah,
Right.
I can't say that on here.
Okay.
But
Keep it clean.
but
Keep it clean.
yeah, I'll keep it clean. But it's just, things that you forget about or you don't prioritize. I was thanking the Lord this morning because my devotional was about Job, and I said, Lord, I never thought that I would thank you for difficulty or adversity or when you say no or for closed doors. But
Hmm.
all of those things has helped me to get to know you better and helped me to depend on you better. And so I think that while I don't like us being apart,
Hmm.
every single time we have ever been apart, God has always done something miraculous in our hearts as individuals and as a couple. And I think that the way you navigate being apart determines how long you'll have to be apart for the goal to be accomplished. And
Right.
so I'm grateful. I'm grateful. I mean, I don't like us being apart, but I'm grateful for what it's doing in us as a couple and as individuals.
Right. So we hope you guys actually got something out of this live tonight that we shared with you about how to navigate some of the distances of long term or relationships when you're separated, that those long distance relationships, how some of the pitfalls to be aware of and to be conscious of, but also some of the things that you can practice that can be a very instrumental tool in your tool belt, in your relationship tool belt, to help you to overcome some of those pitfalls and build a strengthened and stronger relationship when you do get back together from that distance or from that trip or from that separation, that can be instrumental in you building a long-term relationship. So
Yeah.
we
And one of
appreciate you
the things
guys. Go ahead.
one of the things that we talked about, because we were before we were doing hot Friday nights, and now we're doing on Thursday nights, because we want to give you some calls to action for Friday night. So last Thursday night, we on that Friday night we went to a ballet, and so we talked about being a tourist in your own city. If there is something that you did as a couple last Friday, put it in the comments so we'll know what you did. But so for this Friday, we're encouraging you. We even I would say that the 2 weeks we were together, we went to a ballet, we went to the movies, we just got in the car and drove downtown and had vegan ice cream. We went to restaurants. Get out and spend some time together. And now that I'm thinking about this, I think about the time, even during the wild cards and all the things that were going on, we were together. We were together every single day for 2 weeks. And
Hmm.
I loved it.
And so did I. Yep.
I didn't feel like I was like, I'm so sick of him. He get on my nerves. I love his company. I love being with him. But it's like God filled up our little tanks so that while we are apart, we have something in our
You got
heart.
some reserves. Yep.
Yeah, we got some reserves. And so as couples, do something. Spend some time together. Go to the movies or go out to dinner or go for a walk.
Invest in each other.
You got to invest, because you can't expect to keep making withdrawals from an account and never make deposits and the account not close. So
Because
don't.
that I think they call that NSF,
Yeah, it'll close your account
non-sufficient,
down. Yeah, insufficient
non-sufficient funds.
funds.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
So
so we encourage you on Friday nights as a couple, go out, go to dinner. If you have small kids and you don't have a really big budget, sit on the couch together and watch a movie and have ice cream. But just
yeah.
try to find ways to make investments in your relationship, because any relationship that is not invested in, it is going to erode, it's going to be destroyed. So your marriage it's a very important relationship. So make sure you're investing in it. Do something
So
together as a couple.
and it's fun, y'all. Y'all missing out. You better enjoy your relationships. You better enjoy your marriages.
Yeah, it's a gift.
So
It's a
and for
gift.
those who are, as they say, booed up, you better appreciate them because
Yeah.
somebody else could. So I
Yeah.
appreciate my wife so much and thank you.
I appreciate you and I love you
And
and I
so,
thank God for
thank
you.
you guys for hanging out with us. Thank you
Yeah.
guys for joining us. You can always reach out to us on Rich Relationship Refuge. We're going to keep you guys updated on how we're doing with this distancing. And when we get back together, we're going to give a summary of whatever happened and reach
Yeah.
out to us through the Rich Relationship Refuge, us. And you can always leave comments. And as we say always on our time in our channel, we thank you for sticking us in your ears. You thank you for helping us, hanging out with us. Remember, we are stronger together.
And we love you. Please watch the next video that's going to be right up here, and watch, watch, watch. Help us get watch hours by watching our content. We love you. We appreciate you. And we thank God that we get to serve you all. Remember,
See
you're
you
more
guys
than enough.
later.
Bye.
You driving, so you end
I
it.
know. Oh,
Love you
thank you.
guys.
Thank you, everybody. We love you guys.
See y'all later.
Okay, babe, I'll call you afterwards. Hello. Good night. Love you, Iris. We love you all.